such a serious face. I think it's been like, what, 4 weeks since her last video? Maybe longer?
Right, longer.
Alright, so
Or like
last
2 months.
time, that fast. But last time, we left off, we're talking about her ER experience, my ER experience.
Can y'all hear us?
It's really, really late, by the way. Late. It's almost tomorrow. Yeah, so to recap the last video, we had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And
spoiler alert.
My hair looks crazy. But that was an experience. Yeah. I don't even really know how to start.
And you said recap, so we had a kid. He was born in November last year.
Yeah.
Check the last video out for the rest of the deets.
Sorry, he's just moving on the monitor.
He's doing wonderful now. We just passed his first birthday here recently.
Yeah.
It's been a cool experience all the way up until this point. All the different stages and continuing to see more development and everything else.
Yeah. So
I think we left off right when we were leaving the hospital.
Okay. So to rewind a little bit, so after your C-section, they tell you like to take a shower, I think the following day. They're like, get the area all nice and like moisturized or wet or whatever. Some people don't like the word moist. I don't know. I guess that's the thing. But they're like, get the area like all wet and like take the gauze off. And so when I was in the shower, I did just that. But then I started to feel like really, really faint. And I think it was because of all like the blood loss or whatever. So yeah, that was crazy. So I went back and laid in the bed, but then I noticed like the area, my incision area is the area that I've been talking about. It was like, I guess, oozing or leaking. And it was like clear fluid, but they're like, that's normal, whatever. So we were about to get discharged from the hospital, and I was telling the nurse, like, this is still oozing, like, is that normal? She's like, yeah, that's fine, it's fine. And at the time, I didn't think to ask for antibiotics, ask for medication. It's my first experience having a baby, so I really didn't know. And so then, you good?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? So then, like I said, didn't know what to ask for. So, anyways, we went home. Everything was fine. They sent me home with pain medicine. I really wasn't in a lot of pain because I had been taking medicine ever since I had the C-section. Like clockwork, I was taking it every, I don't know, so many hours. That's why the nurses were coming in the dang room half the time to make sure I took medicine. But I would say like maybe like the first, second day, I was fine. I mean, I was walking around. He was saying that I was doing too much. But I feel like I had the energy. I was good. And then maybe like day 4 or 5, TMI, but I thought I had like a UTI because I could like barely walk. I was kind of like hunched over, like, but then I also remember that I had a catheter because of the C-section, and then that could lead to UTI. And so I was like, damn, like that's probably what happened. So I'm like walking hunched over, and now mind you, I said mind you a lot in the last video, so I'm gonna try not to say that a lot. But Paul was really doing all the diaper changing, picking up the baby, like moving the baby from living room to our room. I was like really in the bed, like propped up during this time, because I was starting to get like pain here and there, but it wasn't like unbearable. But then it was like day 5 to where I was like, well, this pain is kind of intense. But I don't like pain medicine, so I was trying to like get myself up the pain medicine. He was like, no, continue to take it. So, anyways, I'm laying in the bed one night and I'm cold, like super, super cold. I was like, Felder, I'm cold. And he was like, you don't feel cold. And I was like, I'm like ice cold, like I'm gonna start shivering. So he put socks on me. And then, video feature on my knee as always. He goes, you know, you don't feel cold. So
you see big old knee.
I know.
Hello, everybody. My name is Big Old Knee. Yeah. That's a special guest. That's our first special guest of the channel.
Yeah. So I was laying in the bed and I'm like, I'm cold. And he was like, put socks on you. And then he was like, I'm gonna give you your robe. Because when I left, when I came home from the hospital, I was wearing nothing but like a nursing bra and then the big underwear pads that they give you after you have a baby. I'm sorry. So I had put on my big old fluffy robe that I actually took off because that's the next video. But yeah. So he took my temperature and he was like, what was it? You remember? It was like 101. And I was like, yo, I have a fever. And I was like, but I feel like I feel okay. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna lay here and see, you know. I was like, I'm just gonna take some Tylenol. That should be fine. But then in the back of my head, is that him? In the back of my head, I was thinking like, something could really be wrong. You know, the C-section. I don't know, internal bleeding, whatever. I don't know. So then, baby's 5 days old. So then he was like, you're doing too much. This is probably because you're doing too much. You need to sit down somewhere. Like, he was frustrated. I was frustrated. I'm like, I just got out of the hospital. I don't want to go back. Anyways, I'm like, I got to get checked out. My job would remember I started pumping when I got home. So, baby was eating like every 2 hours, like clockwork. And I was also like pumping and I was nursing him. So it was just like a little combination of both. So then, call my mom and I'm like, it's 10 o'clock p.m. I'm like, Mom, I need you to take me to the ER. She's like, what? What's going on? And I'm like, I'm just not feeling good. She's like, okay. So then she gets here in like 2 minutes. She lives like 6 minutes away.
More like 5.2 seconds.
Yes, it was something she always says. But so she gets here and I'm trying to put on clothes. I got this incision, so I can't really wear like tight clothes. So I put on like this big old sweats. I have on his sweatshirt. I have on Crocs. Like,
yeah.
Did I have Crocs? Did I have Crocs yet? No, I had my Nike slides on.
Yeah, that's a Nike flop.
With socks. So then he takes my temperature again. It's still about the same.
When did you get those Crocs?
Maybe last year for Christmas? I don't know. But anyways, sorry, I'm kind of I hope you guys can hear me, but I'm whispering because baby's asleep. But so she comes, she picks me up, and she's like, "How you feel?" And I'm like, "I feel fine."
Wouldn't it be funny if we played the video back and it was just like,
I know, it'd be trash. We'd have to probably re-record it with more energy anyway.
Just voice over.
That'd be bad.
That's the thing. No, we're not gonna manufacture anything. You know, it's just.
I feel like this video is slow motion.
Okay.
All right, cool. So let me try to speed it up. Because we got the bed.
I think you're doing a good job at detailing.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. I just lost my train of thought.
Your mom here 5.2 seconds.
Yeah, so she got here, and Paul was like, he had to stay here because the baby was like 5 days old. And I'm thinking, okay, let me feed the baby before I go. I don't know what I was thinking. It's the ER, right? So I said, let me feed the baby before I go. I left enough milk in the refrigerator for him to have another bottle. He was eating, I think, every 3 hours. Every two. Right. So I was like, yeah, I think he had enough for like 6 hours. Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. That should be enough time. I'll be back. You know, I can nurse him when I get back. So,
what time did you leave?
I left at 10. This was 10 p.m.
I want to say it was more like 9 p.m.
Okay. So maybe it was 9.
9:30.
So then I was like, Mom, you gotta take me. She takes me. This is when they had like tents set up outside because it was during COVID. Still COVID. So then I walk up and lady's like, hi, you checking in? I said, yeah. She goes, what are you here for? And I was like, I have a fever. I just had a baby. So I just want to get checked out, make sure I'm all good. She takes my blood pressure. My blood pressure is like 140, whatever, over something. She's like, oh, your blood pressure's high.
Is that high for real?
Yeah, because it's supposed to be 120 over 80. That's normal.
120 over 80. 140 isn't crazy high though, is it?
I don't know. It just wasn't normal. So, and then mind you, like at my appointments, I know I said it again. At my appointments, my blood pressure was like 119, 118 over. Like I was always in like perfect range, right? Or like right below. So, she takes my blood pressure, takes my temperature. My temperature is now like 100. It just dropped a very little bit. So
it was cold outside.
It was ice cold. They had to sit in and sit. It was cold. So she's putting all my information in the system, and she was just like, "Wait, you're still in our system." I was like, "Yeah," because she said, "Oh my God, you just had a baby 5 days ago." Yeah, I hear her turn to the nurse, the male nurse, and she was like, "This is the 4th or 5th person that's come back." Me, I wasn't even thinking to like ask her about it. Like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, that's creepy. So anyways, I mean, I work in healthcare specifically. I've worked in the ER. And so I get it. Like, you don't want the patients to know certain things. So you kind of like are discreet. But I don't think she realized how loud she was. So
maybe she was just like, enough is enough.
He turned and was like, you had a baby 5 days ago? I said, yeah. He's like, all right, so we'll get you checked out. I'm going to like call the whoever in the back and have you sent straight back, right? I said, okay. So my mom's sitting there and she's like waiting. And I was like, Mom, you gotta go park because they're gonna like, you know, take blood or whatever. The lady was like, we're gonna run tests. You know, you'll be fine. So then sitting there, they call me back. Actually, no, I went in with the security guard. It was me and like 2 other people. We walked straight to the back, sat down. Guy took my blood. He was like, what are you here for? And I was like, I can't stand the ER because you got to tell people over and over and over and over what you're here for. So then I was like, I had a baby. I have a fever. I'm not really feeling too good. And he's like, are you taking pain medicine? I said, yeah. He goes, all right, so we'll check you out.
That's probably what was keeping your fever down for a while, depending on what you had. I think you had Tylenol.
I took Tylenol before I left. Because I didn't want my temperature to like spike.
Well, right. I'm saying you
have a stroke or something crazy. So I was like, but I'm serious. So then he like takes my blood. He has me go sit in the waiting room. I'm sitting in the waiting room, waiting. And I'm like, Paul's like, hey, the baby's up, gotta feed him. And so me as a mom, I'm like, damn, like my milk supply is like that I have in the, or my milk stash in the refrigerator is like gonna start dwindling down. So my super husband feeds the baby. My mom leaves me to come back here, and she's with the baby. He brings me my pump so I can like pump just so we don't run out. I pump in the corner at the ER. And so I wasn't even thinking like, oh my gosh, people are like watching me, but I kind of was like, just kind of turned my back to the crowd, and I was pumping. So I gave him a pump or whatever. First of all, when he brought me the pump, he forgot like a major part of it. So then he had to come back home and bring me the part.
What's that
so
cord?
I don't know. Probably the cord. I don't know. So then they call me back, ask me more questions. And they're like, okay, we're gonna get you a CAT scan. Okay. So I'm sitting back there in this like abandoned area. Random doctors walking by. Hey, how's it going? Hey, First of all, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Why y'all so happy? So then I go to take my CAT scan, and I asked the guy, I said, hey, I'm pumping, or I'm a new mom, so I have to feed my baby. Like, do I need to pump and dump? Like, what is this dye that you're going to give me? And he was just like, yeah, like, you should probably do that. Like, this is trash. I feel like they should have someone in the ER who is knowledgeable about these things, because I didn't need to.
According to who?
According to my kid's doctor. So, get my CAT scan or whatever. They finally have a room for me. I'm calling him. We're constantly in touch, and this story just like breaks my heart, because I'm thinking like all I can think about is like my baby's gonna need more milk. My baby's gonna need more milk. Like, I have to get home. So I don't care how I feel. Like, I have to get him more milk. So he brings me my pump again. I'm able to get more out, but I hadn't eaten. So it was like, just barely enough. And thinking about it now, what I fed him, well, no, because he was a little chunky, but so he was eating. Like he was like, he's gonna get up in a little bit. We're down to our last bottle, and then I was like, ugh. So we had to come up with a plan. Like, we had formula. You know how when you're having a baby, these random companies, I guess, can smell it in the air, so they just send you random cans of formula. So they had sent that, and I was like going over the formula with him over the phone. I'm just like, no, I don't want to give him that. No, not that one, not that one, not that one. And I remember my cousin was telling me that they had to put their baby on formula, and she was really like in love with this formula. So I was like, Paul, we gotta just get it to have it. It was like one of the hardest decisions I feel like I've ever had to make. Like, exactly. So, that was tough. So then the doctor comes in the room, and he was like, he's really, really nice. He's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, I'm not feeling good. Now I'm having pain in the area, in my incision area. And he looks at it and he's like, oh, it's oozing. And I said, yeah, this is the same thing that it was doing before I left the hospital. And he was just like, oh, okay. And he was like, well, the doctor who delivered your baby is here. So.
But he's on breakfast.
But here's the thing. He goes, I'm going to call him. I'm going to have him come down and check you out. And then you're out of here. You can get back to your baby. And I was like, perfect, right? So then he calls the doctor. And the doctor was like, okay, I'll come down before my next C-section. The doctor didn't come down until about 7 a.m. Now, I got there I was in my room. I don't know what time. I got to the ER.
You left the house
I left the house at like 9:30. It's now 7 a.m. So he comes and he like looks at the area. He's like, he just skims it. He goes, okay, I'm going to get you antibiotics. So you're telling me, excuse my language, you're telling me I sat in this fucking ER for, I can just cry right now, for this amount of time away from my baby, for you to tell me I'm just going to give you antibiotics. First of all, you could have came down 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago, looked at the area and said, hey, I'm going to prescribe you antibiotics. That way you could have put in the order. I could have got my prescription from a pharmacy and started taking the medicine that same time frame that I was having these issues. So anyways, I was so pissed. Like, I was so upset because I was like, I'm away from my newborn. The stress of like having to like feed, it wasn't even like I was away from him, but it was just like I have to feed him. You know what I mean? And then we just felt helpless because it was like everything, the stores were closed. Everything was closed. So it's not like he could just go to Vons where he went when they opened at 6 a.m. to go and get the formula. You know what I mean? Like, and we were looking for, no, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's like stores at 7-Eleven probably has formula, whatever. But like, we wanted this specific one because he'd had breast milk this whole time. And I didn't want to like shake up his system too much. You know what I mean? Like, it's just all these thoughts were going through my head. Plus, I just had a baby. So it's a whole bunch of other random thoughts that were going through my head. And so, and mind you, they told me to pump and dump. So, so much of the story, but he ended up coming to the hospital and sitting with me, and the nurse came in, and she's like, "I'm gonna give you your medicine." I just wanted to slap that paper out her head, and like, y'all, you guys are trash for this. It was mainly the doctor. The doctor was cool, but like, it's the system. It's really just the system, the setup. Like, it is what it is, right? So she gives me the prescription. It's now the sun's up, a whole new day. You know, luckily he was able to get the formula. I know I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, but luckily he was able to get the formula. By this time, my mom had to go because she had to go drop my brother off at school, go to work. So his mom had came down and she was with the baby, even though she had to work. You know what I mean? Like, it was just an inconvenience for everybody. You know what I mean? Starting with the fact that I left the hospital with the incision oozing in the first place. You guys let me go. Mm-hmm. You could have prescribed me antibiotics. You could have said, let me follow up with the doctor. But it was like, oh, no, it's fine. It'll happen. Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It wasn't fine. You know what I mean? And then my staples had to stay in. Well, I was supposed to get them removed the day that I was going to the ER. My nurse was like, no, we're going to keep them in for another however many days. I can't remember, until you get better, because I'm not going to take them out. And then that causes the infection to be an even bigger infection. Like, we're not going to do that. Remember Sandra, the nurse who did all of our like little checkups in that side room at Dr. R's office?
Hey, doctor.
Remember how her name was like Sandy? She was like the neo whatever nurse.
Where?
At our doctor's office. She had the little office in the back.
You said Dr. R?
Yeah.
Office in the back.
Anyways.
Oh, the taller lady?
Yes.
Okay, yep,
yes.
Got it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. She was our nurse. She did our tests when, actually I was there by myself when I had to retest for the miscarriage. And then it was cool for her to test us again. And she was like, oh, it's positive the second time. But, yeah. What?
No, go ahead.
So, anyways, we left the hospital. I was like so upset because I feel like I wasted my time. Now, mind you, in my head, I'm thinking I gotta pump and dump. So, the fact that these boobs are full, I just gotta pour it out anyway. So, what did I do? I pumped like 8 ounces, like 4 each side, right down the drain. And then we got here. Baby was fine until about maybe later that day. Maybe that day or the next day. It was not good. He was a little gassy baby. He was uncomfortable. He was fussy.
That's what led into those 2-3 nights, huh?
I believe so. Mm-hmm. So we had a rough few days after that. I think it was because of the switch, the breast milk formula switch. Because it wasn't like we led into it. It was just like a gradual thing. So then I called his doctor the next day because he had like this choking episode. So he was like drinking the bottle, right? And then he like locked up. His arms went straight out. His legs went straight out. He locked up, and Paul had just walked out of the room to the kitchen. And I was like screaming like, Paul, like something's wrong with him, right? And so then Paul like grabs him, and then he like, pats his back, and then the baby like, it's fine. So I called his doctor, tell her what happened. And she's like, oh, why'd you decide on formula? And I said, well, because I gave her the whole story. This happened at the ER. And she was just like, they told you to pump it up? She goes, I said, yeah. She said, no. Why'd they tell you that? And I was like, I don't freaking know. She's like, give your baby that milk, please. She says, don't pour any more milk out. Please feed your baby. Which you can feed your baby. I said, okay. She's like, are you still making milk? I said, yeah. She says, give him the milk. He'll be fine. She said, if anything, it's small traces of the dye that will get into his system. She says, he's completely fine. And I was like, now I'm mad all over again. You know. But yeah, that's why I went to the ER, because I had an infection in my incision. And it was just long and drawn out for no reason. Trash. Yeah. But I think it took me about a good week to heal from that. Took out my... With the antibiotic. Took out my staples. They will...
You took them?
No, my nurse did. She took them out and told her that she's like, you were supposed to come in that day. And I was like, yeah. She's like, what happened?
That's right. You show up.
And so, this is another lady actually. And so,
what was the young girl's name? Remember a young girl? Lupe.
So, took my staples out and she was like, oh my gosh, she had an infection. She was like, I can see like where it was, blah, blah. That's the only thing I would say was not so good about the postpartum period. It wasn't fun. I wouldn't do it again that way.
Yeah, I think, but you got
next time I know.
Yeah.
So just give me, if I have to have a C-section.
No.
If I have the baby naturally or vaginally, then I probably wouldn't need to get antibiotics. But
I think, just in my mind, I think it'd be a better experience next time, because you've gone through it once before. Just off of that alone, is that gonna make it the best experience? I don't think so, but I think because you know what to expect, setting your expectations is part of the battle. So, but yeah, the doctor that did the C-section and everything else, he was there. He was cool. Everything, like you mentioned in the last video, he was cool as a cucumber. And then to hear like it's the fourth patient that happened like this, that's kind of like what's going on. I don't know if it was his fourth patient or it was just one of the four, or whoever was making the calls or just making bad calls, whatever.
I hope they don't have like unsterilized, if that's the word, tools that they're using on people to cause an infection or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, because I looked at pictures and people have worse infections. They have had worse infections than I had.
Yeah, but they did tell us to start though, infections are common. We gotta also think too, like the surgery you had was a large surgery. Anyhow, just the whole situation of like leaving there again. This being, like she said, our first experience with going through this. So a lot of this is very vivid, like in terms of our memory of the events, but we're also like passengers, because we're like, okay, and if something makes sense in that moment, yeah, but sure, it makes sense, we go with it. If it don't make sense in the moment, of course we got something to say, like certain nurses and whatever, like we mentioned before. But with this, we didn't know any different. Oh, they said it'd be fine. Oh, okay, but now we know different, and we're not leaving the hospital if it's another C-section or anything of that matter, without antibiotics. I don't care what's going on. And I'm not, if you know me, I'm not a rude guy, nothing like that. I'm not going to be rude, but we're leaving the hospital with antibiotics. And then the whole process of like, her catching a fever, being cold when it was not cold. I'm like, I'm sweating in here, like it's hot. You talking about it's cold, your body is like warm. Fever, ran with the thing to the hospital, and then I don't even want to say hospital, because that gives the hospital a bad name, even though it is the hospital. The ER is the worst, one of the worst systems that we have, I feel, in I don't know if it's
Okay.
in the nation or whatever, but just my experience. I don't know if it's anybody else's experience. I'd assume so. In the ERs, it's the worst experience ever, because if there was something really wrong with me, I'd mess around and be dead in here because I have to wait 5 hours to even be for real seen past triage. And it's like, I think it's just terrible. It's like the DMV. DMV has grown some, but it's still the same situation. Um, Standing in lines for hours. So it's just like I really do not like the ER, because for the folks who, I mean, if your life is on the line, you're rushed back there, that's a different situation. But why does it have to be that drastic in order to get some kind of, you know, resolve or reaction or response, solution, whatever you want to say, to my issue? So we also went back to the ER like 3 months or 4 months later, because baby was congested and all that kind of stuff, and
his breathing was kind of funny.
He was congested. And that's all that was.
I was like, let's go.
But yeah, with this situation, it's just, she sat in there from 10 to like 8 the next morning, 7 the next morning. That's ridiculous. For him to just say, here's an antibiotic. Come on, man. My God. I mean, and like the thing is, everything that happened along the way, like our moms being here for us, of course, they're here. We always appreciate that. It's nothing for them, but we ran through the rest of the breast milk that we had. That night, I was able to go get some of the formula that we wanted for him, and that worked. You know what I'm saying? For that day or two. But then even when he got back on the breast milk, not even that day or two, he only had like a bottle or two of that. And then we went right back to breast milk. And then it still went a day or two later for him to have like that reaction. It's not even just the stiff reaction, kind of like what did she call it? She called it
I remember.
Not like regurg, but he had like I forgot what she called it. Anyway, it was something like simple that we would have. He said like, nah, acid reflux.
Maybe it was
acid reflux or something. I don't know what it was, but it was something very common for adults, but for the baby, he was like, whoa. But then, a couple of days after that or so, he had like I think it was called like the purple cry nights, where he just cried from like 11 a.m. to like 3, 4, 5 a.m. Like 2.
We were just taking turns, like
2-3 days
around the room, rocking him, just rocking him. Nothing was soothing him.
Yeah, 2-3 days. I mean, he was just crying.
And it was at night.
Take a brief break.
Like you said, the time frame. That's it.
Did I say 11 a.m.? I said 11 p.m. Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m.
In the morning.
So it was at least about 4 or 5 hours every night.
Yeah.
And it was for sure 2 nights straight. It might have been 3. And it was just, I hardly remember. A lot of that first couple months,
yeah.
Pretty fuzzy. I remember a lot of things, but it's just not as cohesive as normal, as my normal memory would be. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it was just a tough time. But my thing is it's I understand. I'm not trying to be like, cancel culture and saying, oh, his fault, he needs to answer for this, he should be fired. No, I'm sure it happens much more often than most folks would like. But at the same time, like, the level of accountability has to be there. Like, right. For you to sit there in the ER, for anybody to sit there in the ER for 10 hours just for here's an antibiotic that I could have given you in the first place as a precaution. Like, hey, if you do get the feeling like whoop-de-whoop or this, that, or third, take this. And I mean, with a major surgery like that, if I go in there and get a tummy tuck, I don't even know what kind of surgery that would be, but it's probably more like a bariatric surgery. But anyway, if I go get, I don't know, some kind of major surgery that would be equivalent to a C-section, are they going to say, well, we'll see? And of course they do C-sections every day. I get that, but that doesn't change the severity of the operation. So anyway,
Yeah, that's
That
why
was
I
it.
went to the ER. That was our experience. Yeah. I don't want this video to be too long. It's already 35 minutes. But good night. It is now tomorrow.
Yep, earlier we said it's almost tomorrow. Now it's tomorrow.
We don't see you guys before. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family and your friends.
Peace and love.
That's all for now. Bye, guys.